So the words of Torah that we say today should be the Refuah Shlema Menashe Yisachar ben Braina and the Ilui Nishmat Chaya Esther bat Pesel. I thought that there's a minhag during the weeks of Sfirat HaOmer. We've given classes in the past how this is the time to work on our character traits. And one of the ways to do that, one of the places to do that, is we look to Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot, there's really 5 chapters, ends up being there's 6 chapters, and you're supposed to, usually Pesach, people are busy, but then afterwards, if you're able to learn 1 perek per week, that's ideal, and it's great, not necessarily that easy, but I figured I've started giving every morning. I think I mentioned to you ladies, we have a kids kollel, that we have a bunch of boys, a few boys from Manual College year 7, a few boys from Hasmani in year 9, my son, and sometimes other boys. They come at 6:45 in the morning. We have a shiur, and we've been doing Birkei Avot. So today we did an interesting Mishnah. I thought I would share it. This is quite a famous one, but quite an important one. It's Perek Aleph, Mishnah Vav, and it says, Yehoshua ben Prachya v'Nitai ha'arbeli kiblu mehem. In the previous Mishnah, we had the 2 Rabbi Yosis, Rabbi Yossi ben Yozer and Yossi ben Tzereda ish Yerushalayim. Before that, in the beginning, it gives you a sequence of the Misorah. Moshe kibel Torah Sinai, Misra Yoshua, Yoshua's Kenim. You have all the different generations that it was passed down. Everything comes from Hashem. You would have thought, look, I need the Torah. Torah means guidance and hora'ah, and I need the Torah to tell me to keep kosher. I need, as we mentioned last week in the parasha, I need the Torah to tell me to keep Shabbat. Tell me how to be a good person. I know that. No, even ethics come from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And everything is passed down from Moshe Rabbeinu to Yeshua, to the elders, to the men of the Great Assembly, to the prophets, the men of the Great Assembly. And now we go through. And you had one chief main rabbi, Shimon HaTzadik, Atigdosh Ish Socho, and then I guess they would have a similar system to what we have here in London. You have the chief rabbi, and you have the Av Beit Din. People don't necessarily go to Rabbi Mervis or went to Rabbi Sachs with halachic questions. Is this person need to do this? Is that not allowed? That they left for the head of the Beit Din, Dayan Ehrentreu, Dayan Geli. But the chief rabbi's job is to go around, give inspiration, be the head of the rabbis. So too over here, there was the Av Beit Din, and there was the Resh Galuta, the chief rabbi. So Yehoshua ben Prachya and Nitai ha'arbeli, those are the 2 main rabbis, the chief rabbi and the Av Beit Din. And this Mishnah tells us, Yehoshua ben Prachya Omer, what did Yehoshua ben Prachya used to say? Aseh lecha rav, make for yourself a rabbi. Ukne lecha chaver, buy yourself a friend. V'havedan et kol ha'adam lekav zechut, judge each person favorably. Right? That's what Yehoshua ben Prachya used to say. So first of all, it's just important to understand who was Yehoshua ben Prachya. What are some interesting stories about him? So the previous Mishnah, Yossi ben Ozer and Yossi ish Tzereda Yerushalayim ish Tzereda, used to say, what are these 2 rabbis? They lived during the time of the Maccabees and Hanukkah. Most people are throwing away their Judaism, and the Maccabees come, Bet Hashmonaim, and they take over, they win the war, but they appoint themselves the kings. They're not allowed to because they come from Yochanan Kohen Gadol. They're from the tribe of Levy, and you're only allowed to be the kings if you're from the tribe of Yehuda. Therefore, they end up getting wiped out within a couple of generations, and there's a king called Yanai HaMelech. Yanai HaMelech was heavily influenced by, I guess in today's modern day, we would call it the Reform movement, the Karaites, those who don't believe in the oral Torah, only the written Torah. And they say, they convinced this king that the Orthodox, the frum rabbis are against you, and he went around wiping out pretty much all the rabbis. The Gemara has an interesting story. There was one rabbi who was elderly, that was blind, and he obviously didn't know who he was talking to, and Yanai HaMelech asked him all these questions, and he ends up saying, if I would have known that the religious rabbis are like you, I never would have killed them. Our rabbi in our Mishnah, Yehoshua ben Prachya, he runs away to Alexandria, to Egypt. And eventually, message gets to him that it's now safe to return. And on his way there, on his way from Egypt, from Alexandria to Eretz Yisrael, they stop off in a hotel, in an inn. And the innkeeper sees Yehoshua ben Prachya great rabbi, and all his students. And the husband and wife, they prepare a massive feast and they take care of the students and the rabbi. The rabbi says to his students, look how amazing and how beautiful our innkeepers are. And one of the students says, yes, but the hostess, her eyes are round. The rabbi says, you thought I was talking about her physical beauty? You thought I was talking about the way she looks? I'm not looking how this woman is beautiful in her physical beauty. I'm talking about her midot, her character traits. And this is, says, you can no longer be one of my students. Right? This morning, before we have the morning kollel at 6:45, we learned a Masechet. Baruch Hashem, we finished Masechet Megillah. We made a beautiful siyum. Today we started Masechet Makot. Masechet Makot talks about lashes, but it talks about people who have to go into galut, into exile. Over here, you're excommunicated. You're no longer allowed to be with us. You're now in galut. And he says, the Gemara discusses over there, if you have someone who kills by accident, they have to go to galut. And what happens? The rabbi needs to go to galut with his student. In other words, you need to have students that are good students, that are worthy students. Rabbi tells his student, Yoshua ben Prachia says, you can no longer be my student. Cherem excommunicates him. Every day the guy comes back, Rabbi, please, I'm sorry, I learned my lesson, I didn't realize. And the rabbi, not interested. On the last day, when the rabbi was going to accept this student back, he was saying Shema, the student, and he takes his hands off, and he must have given a signal like, wait a second. The guy says, you know what, I don't need this, Khalas. Every day I'm going to come beg to be a student of the rabbi, I don't need this. And he starts his own religion. There's different opinions. The Gemara calls this man Yeshu. There's different opinions if this was Jesus or not. Right? The Sefer HaEshkol says that when Jesus was put on the cross, that was 135 years before the destruction of Bet HaMikdash, and this story takes place. Now Barbanel says it was about 151 years before the destruction, as opposed to Yoshua ben Parachia, who lived a couple hundred years. Was it him? Was it not him? There's different opinions. Either way, the Gemara says, this teaches us a very important lesson. When you have students, and every one of us has students, meaning our children, and also those that we influence, you need to have small docha, you mean mikarev, even if they need to be punished. I was talking to someone, and they were telling me how they knew their nephew was probably going to have a lot of issues. Why? Because the parents were so tough on him. They were always constantly punishing him and disciplining him, and he was always in his room, and he was always punished. He says, of course the kid's going to rebel. What do you expect? Sometimes you need to discipline. Small docha, but yamin mikarev. Small, the left hand always represents midat hadin, and the right hand always represents midat rachamim, the attribute of mercy. That's why in boxing, left, right. You need to have a right in there, but the left is the punching, it's the deen. You have to do it in the right way. You have to know your child, which we'll get back to in a minute, understand what they can handle, what they can't handle, what's the best approach. There's no one size fits all. So this rabbi, he pushed away Yeshu, and the rest is history. The rest is history. There are those who say that, we know that he had two main disciples, Peter and Paul. During the actual time of Yeshu's life, Christianity was not very popular. It was Peter and Paul who really made it popular. There were those that say that it was actually, I don't remember if it was Peter or Paul, who promoted Christianity. The rabbis had prayed. The temptation for Avodah Zarah was so overwhelming. The rabbis prayed that the desire should go away. And therefore, people during that generation no longer believed in Zeus and Poseidon and all the different gods. And they were looking for a monotheistic religion. And the rabbis were worried if they become Jewish, they'll water down Judaism. They're not really becoming Jewish for the right reasons. And they pushed them towards Christianity. And Christianity became by far the most popular religion as it is today. Smin yochal doche yamin mekarev. When we discipline, as much as they need to be punished, you have to do it in a tactful way that you're also bringing them close in other ways. If you're just pushing away and punishing and disciplining, who knows what can happen. So Yoshua ben Prachia lived during that time period. Rabbi Shua ben Prachia has an interesting statement. The Gemara in Menachot 109, Yoshua ben Prachia says, originally if anybody would have suggested that if I become the Nasi, the chief rabbi, the head of the Sanhedrin, I would have said, throw him up Tie him up, throw him to the lions. Are you crazy? You think I want to be the chief? You think I want to be that headache? He says, now that I'm the rabbi, anybody who would want to take it away from me, I would pour scalding hot water over him. In other words, you try and take this. There's a lot of people, they're not looking for kavod, but if they become the rabbi of the shul, the CEO of the company, the head of the organization, suddenly they don't want to let it go. Now, could be that it's coming from a good place. I know I can run the ship the best way. Why would I let somebody else run the ship? But Yoshua and Prachya is saying, no, the reality is, I'm not looking for the kavod, but now that I have it, it's important. We see the same thing with Shaul HaMelech. He literally, the terminology hiding under the table is from Shaul HaMelech. When he was chosen as the king, he went under the table. But once he felt that the kingship was being threatened by David HaMelech, he did anything and everything to try and kill him. Throwing out all logic. It can happen. So we have to be careful when we have that situation that we're put in positions of power. I've found that a lot of times you have people that they're not themselves arrogant, but when it comes to their shul or their organization, suddenly they'll do anything, right? No, but our thing, we do. You have to always do your best to try and make sure that you understand everything is from Hashem, and if this is for me or not for me or given to me, it's all from Hashem. So, what does Yoshua and Prachya say? First and foremost, Aseh lecharav, make yourself a rabbi. By the way, it doesn't say buy yourself a rabbi. The next words in the Mishnah are buy yourself a friend. If you buy yourself a rabbi, if you're very wealthy and you give big donations to the rabbi, chances are he'll be scared to tell you off. He'll be scared to tell you, hello. What you did over here, that's unacceptable. What you had at your wedding, this type of situation, that's not right. You can do better than that. I heard that you said this, or that you did this, or that you went over there on holiday. It's not a place for a good Jewish family. The rabbi's not going to say that if he's on your payroll. Again, there are some that might, but you don't want it to be that the reason that he's your rabbi is only because you bought him. Aseh lecharav, you need to have a rabbi. And a rabbi that knows you and that knows your family. For you ladies, it might be a rebbe, it might be a mentor. It doesn't necessarily have to be a rabbi. But the concept of having someone you can go to. I'll give you a few examples. I was very lucky. I hit the jackpot on the first time. I only dated my wife. But I was dating my wife. It was the third date. I don't know if she'll hear about this. I think she knows. But if not, you can tell her. Don't worry. It was the third date. And I called up my rabbi afterwards. And I'm like, I don't know if I should keep going out with this girl. He says, why? I said, it wasn't such a great date. He says, what'd you do? I said, we went out for pizza, but she didn't want people to know we were dating. There's only one pizza shop in Deal. So we ate in the car and then we painted pottery. Said, did you enjoy it? He asked me. I'm like, no, it's not my thing. He says, okay, so chances are it wasn't her. It was the activities. Go do something that you'll for sure enjoy and then you'll know. Was it her or was it what you were doing? I said, but doesn't each date get better and better and better? He's like, stop watching these movies. That's not how it's like in real life. Right? I don't know that. I need a rabbi to tell me, to teach me. I went to a rabbi. I said, it's the fifth date. Apparently, it's supposed to be getting serious. Now, the first few dates, they're like, just see if there's a connection, see if you can have a good time together. And then it gets more serious. So apparently, it's supposed to get more serious. He says, yeah. I said, what does that mean? What makes the date more serious? He's like, you don't have to worry about it. I said, what does that mean? He says, you're the type, most people, they have a checklist. I want to know by date number 5, do they want to have a TV in the house? Are they going to cover their hair? Are they going to do this? What's important? He says, you're the type of guy, on the first date, you might have mentioned it in passing, and it was chilled, and you might have stuff that other people need to know by the 5th date, and you'll bring it up on the 10th date. You're not that type of personality that you need to know this at this stage and this. Everybody's different, but I had a rabbi who knows me, that was able to guide me and tell me, this is you, this is someone else, don't do. Aseh lecharav. You need to have a rabbi that knows you. The rabbi might get the same exact question from 2 different people, and he'll give 2 different answers. Rabbi, can I use the eruv? We'll get a little bit controversial. The rabbi might say, no, you shouldn't be using it. Somebody else might ask, and the rabbi knows this person, knows the family, knows that if he says you can't use the eruv, then the wife's not going to be able to bring the baby to shul. And if the wife's sitting at home with the baby, she's going to tell her husband, I want you to stay home with me. I can't take care of the baby the whole time for 3 hours while you're in shul. And therefore, the guy's not going to come to shul. So there's plenty of opinions say the eruv is okay. And therefore, we can rely on that because that way the guy's going to come to shul, his wife's going to come to shul, he's going to get more involved, he's going to become more connected. Every situation is a different situation. A guy calls up the rabbi and says, oh, do I need to do this on Pesach? Now the rabbi knows the wife is not so religious. Not as religious as the husband. If he says to the guy, yes, you must do this for Pesach, who's the one that's going to do all the work in the kitchen, that he has to change this and that? It's his wife, and she's going to end up resenting Judaism. So the rabbi knows the situation, and he might say, don't worry about it, you don't have to do that in your kitchen for Pesach. Someone else calls up, he knows the family, he says, of course you should. You need to have a rabbi that knows you and knows your family and understands you, understands what you can do, what's too much for you at different stages of your life. You need to make yourself a rabbi that's able to guide you and your family, no matter what the situation is. And you need to always, the reality is, we have a conflict of interest. We're human beings. So we need to go to a rabbi. We need to have guidance. Someone was in touch with me this week, offered me an amazing job, mega job, much bigger than Chazak. Do I take it? Do I not take it? What do I do? How? What? I need to think about these things. I need to weigh it up. My inclination is, no, I'm doing this. It's going well. I still have plans. I want to do a lot more big things. But maybe this is more important for the Jewish people. So I spoke to the person. I said, I don't think it's for me, but if you want, I'm happy to speak to my rabbi. He had other people that he's been in touch with. Because I'm nogea b'davar. I have a conflict of interest, and I need a rabbi. Sometimes I'm in touch with my rabbi. I think since I've been in London 11 years now, 2 or 3 times. He's a busy man. He's a great tzaddik. I don't want to waste his time, but if there's a big thing, I need guidance. When there's big decisions to be made, you have to have a rabbi. You need to buy yourself a friend. What does it mean, buy yourself a friend? I would have thought, support the rabbi, buy a rabbi, make a friend. Not buy yourself a friend. So, when we think about our friends, who are usually our friends? Nowadays, we live in a generation, there's Facebook friends. I remember I had a brother-in-law, this is probably at least 10 years ago, maybe even 12, 13 years ago. He said to me, he's like, I had a birthday party on the beach all night, from midnight till 5 a.m., 200 people there. I said, wow, that's amazing. You spent a lot of money? He's like, yeah, 200 people. You know, the amount of alcohol and this and that, whatever it might have been. I said, do you know everybody that was there? These are all your friends? He's like, I know most of them. I said, how many of them have you actually hung out with? I don't know. 20, right? We live in a generation where the youth think friends is just every. I said, you need to buy a friend. Why buy? So we'll give 2 answers that tie together. When you want to buy a house, what do? You do a lot of research. And you ask yourself, who are the neighbors? Is it a good road? What's the shuls in the area? My father said to me, before he bought the house that I grew up in, he was looking at another house. He walked an hour to see the shuls. He says, I want to see what's the shul like on Shabbat. How do I pick a house if I don't have a shul that I know I'm going to be happy and that my kids will be good for my kids on Shabbat? You do research before you buy a house. You do research before you buy a car. Does it have good space? Is it not? For my family, for me, does it have a place to rest my arm? What's this, does it have navigation? Does it have... You do research. When you're getting a friend, the same way when you buy something important, you do research. When it comes to friends, same thing. You need to do research. Who are people I would like to be friendly with? Wow. You know what she does? She volunteers over here. That's beautiful. I heard a story about her. She did this. That's amazing. I would love to be her friend. Do research. When I went to yeshiva, I went to one yeshiva called Yeshiva Afar Rockaway. Why Afar? In the 5 towns of New York. And I was there a few weeks. And one guy said to me, he says, the first 2 weeks you were here, I thought you were a floater. I thought you were a guy who joins the yeshiva, quiet guy, doesn't say anything to anybody, just sits there and does his thing. But you're not like that at all. He says, now I realize you were observing. I come to you, I don't know anybody. I didn't have even one friend. I don't know anybody in the yeshiva. I said, I'll observe. Who's my type? What are the different groups? And where do I fit in? Before I observe. These are the type of people I want to be friendly with. And I even had 2 groups of friends. One that I was with in yeshiva and during the week, and one that Motzei Shabbat, we would hang out a little bit. Maybe they were a little bit more chilled and more fun, it's okay. But knei lecha chaver, buy yourself a friend. Now you might say, all right, I want to be friends with her. She's an amazing person. But how do I do that? So sometimes knei lecha chaver, it costs money. You invite them over for a Shabbat meal. You know that they enjoy going, oh, you know what? I would love to have a coffee together in bread. It's on me. My treat. Right? A lot of times I'll have students and I'll say, let's go out to eat. Hummus bar. It's on me. I heard I'm a good date. Yeah, don't worry about it. It costs. It's life. Knei lecha chaver, sometimes you need to spend money to be able to have a friend. That's how it works. Because ultimately, friends are the ones that influence you for the good or for the bad. They can bring you up or they can bring you down. That's just the way life is. So, knei lecha chaver, you need to buy yourself a friend, because the same way buying, you do research, the same way sometimes you need to spend money to acquire something. If you want to acquire the right type of friends, it costs. That's just the way it's got to be. Go out of your way. Many people are friends because they're neighbors. Many people are friends because they work in the same office. Many people are friends. That's good. Of course you should be friends. But ultimately, really, you only end up with a few friends. Kids think they have 100 friends, 200 friends, 1,000 Facebook friends. You ask most people, how many real friends, adults, how many real friends do you have? 2, 3. It's 3 a.m. There's an emergency. You need to go somewhere. Who can you call up at 3 a.m.? That's a real friend. There aren't too many people you feel comfortable calling up. Family's different. You call up a sister, you call up a parent, of course. But real friends, most people have 2, 3. They know you'll be there for them no matter what. They tell a story about someone who says to his son is saying, I have so many friends. He says to his son, you think you have friends, you don't have any friends. I have one real friend. I think it might even be like half a friend. He says, what do you mean? He goes out, takes a sheep, slaughters the sheep, puts the head in a cloth bag, says, go to your friends, say, I just killed the king and I need somewhere to hide. Can you help me? The guy goes, his friends are like, you crazy? You just killed? No way. Comes home, he says, Dad, none of them willing to help me. He says, okay, go to my one friend. Ask him. The guy says, of course, come on in. We'll hide you. We'll figure out. As long as you need, you could be here. I said, you need a real friend. And a real friend tells people off. A real friend will point out things to their friend, again, in the right way, when they need it. I have a friend. He's a speech therapist. And good friend. He said to me, when I said to him, why are you going for speech therapy? He says, speech therapy, there's not enough men in the field. And he said to me, that way, no one's calling you up at 11 o'clock at night with a speech therapy emergency, as far as I know. So he said, I'll be able to work from 9 till 4 or 5, and I'll be able to spend an hour in the morning before Shachrit learning. I'll be able to spend a couple of hours at night after spending time with family learning. It's the type of job that I can still learn a few hours a day. And you have a set salary, you work for the school, it's good. Okay. He becomes a speech therapist. A couple years later, I said to him, how's it going? He said, good. I said, how's your learning? He says, I do once or twice a week over here. I said, Habibi, didn't you tell me you became a speech therapist because you want to do this? You want to be able to learn a few hours a day? You're only learning a couple of hours a week? What the heck, man? It's not cool. A few months later, he said to me, you're right. I took it to heart. I set up a chavruta, and then, when he finished learning a certain masechet, then he finished a certain thing, and he took tests on it, and he passed. He said, this is all because a friend, in the right way, don't do like me, I'm pretty blunt. But my friends know that, so I can get away with it. Right? You'll be more tactful. But a real friend will tell their friend something that nobody else can. A real friend, aseh lecha Rav, make for yourself a rabbi. But knei lecha chaver, if it costs, you spend. Do research. Who are my friends? Who do I want to be friendly with? Who are people that are b'nei aliyah, people that are growing? They're going to classes, they're volunteering, they're amazing, and they have amazing kids. And I wish my kids would also be Ezat Hashem, be like that. Phenomenal. I want our kids to be friends, so I'm going to invite them over for the Shabbat meal. It costs, no problem. Knei lecha chaver. And the third line in the Mishnah is, V'havedan et kol ha'adam lekav zechut. First of all, it doesn't say dan kol adam lekav zechut, judge each person. Havedan et kol ha'adam. Judge the whole person. What does that mean, the whole person? Everybody has character flaws. This one needs kavod. This one is lazy. This one is cheap. This one, everybody has their challenges. I heard one rabbi, he was actually doing the 3 weeks, and he was saying, sinat chinam, we have certain people we hate. So what do? We We become their lawyers. What does that mean, we become their lawyers? If somebody came to you and said, Mrs. So-and-so, the mafia boss, John Gotti, Michael Corleone, they want you to be his lawyer, and they're willing to pay you $1 million a day. You're going to take the job? Of course. $1 million a day. Now, you need to find a way of being their lawyer. So what are you going to say? The guy's he's a mafioso. What are you going to say? He's a family man, and he gives a lot of charity. The money's stolen. You don't say that. You find a way of saying things nicely. You find a way of saying he cares for the community. Look, he donated this for the community. He put his name on the building. You should see the way he treats his mother. And people hear the amount of friends that he has, the amount of people that he helps. Beautiful. People know that he's very loyal. All these things are true. You can put a twist. Havedanet kol ha'adam. You look at certain people and say, wow, she has this issue. You're right. That is an issue. But when you judge the whole person, then it's not a problem. Someone was telling me about somebody, big gevir. And he said, this person, he likes to talk. But you know what? He's earned the right. Because he gives a lot of charity, and he helps loads of people, and he helps loads of organizations. So even if he talks the talk, but he walks the walk. The guy didn't just judge that this guy's a talker. He said, what is it? I judge the whole person, danet kol ha'adam. I judge the whole person. Overall, look at how much good they've done. Are there certain challenging things that they need to work on? Of course, we're human beings. We only have things we need to work on. But ultimately, danet kol ha'adam. As parents, we're very good with this with our kids. Very good with our kids. And they give an example. You have a kid, he's in the playground. And someone says, look at this kid, he's a bully. He's telling there, you shovel over there, you clean up. And the mom says, my kid's not a bully, my kid is a leader. My kid's a leader. He knows how to delegate, and he's having everybody do their jobs. Judge the whole person. When it comes to your kid, you see all the good. As much as challenging as our kids might be, and there's things you want them to work on. When someone else starts talking about them, you'll say all the praises, and they're all true. Now that person that you're upset at, judge them the same way. Of course, your kids have certain flaws. We all do. But you judge them favorably. You find all the good. Danet kol ha'adam. You judge the whole person as a whole, and there's one flaw or two things that are challenging they need to work on. Havedanet kol ha'adam. Find the good. What does it mean to judge somebody favorably? Danet kol ha'adam lekav zechut. So on a simple level, you have a path. This path either leads to the pub or this path leads to the synagogue. And you see somebody walking down this path. Dan the kaf zechut means I should judge. There's no doubt that they're going to this shul. They're going to the synagogue. They could be. They look like they're pretty thirsty. No. Somebody's walking out of McDonald's. You shouldn't say, chances are they had the Big Mac. You should say, Dan the kaf zechut. Must be they needed the toilet and they were desperate. But they were walking out of a non-kosher restaurant. I understand. But I'm dan the kaf zechut. But I've heard rumors. Doesn't matter. Dan the kaf zechut. I'm always going to judge favorably. I'm going to find a way of seeing the good. Right? I have the book over here. Anaf Etz Avot. Chacham Ovadia is his commentary on Pirkei Avot. Highly recommended. Many of it is different stories, and he brings down a couple of stories over here. He says there's a story of the Ktav Sofer. I'm a big fan of the Ktav Sofer. Ktav Sofer, his father is the Khatam Sofer, if I'm not mistaken, and his daughter was getting married, so he made a big wedding and invited all the Rabbanim of all the different surrounding areas. And all the rabbis in Hungary, of course, Ktav Sofer, Chief Rabbi of Pressburg, invites us, of course we're going to come. At the wedding, he says to the table with the Rabbanim, I have something over here that's very special, very, very rare. Only a few in the whole world are known. He takes out of his pocket a coin. He says, this is a mahatzita shekel from the times of the Bet HaMikdash. This was used in the Bet HaMikdash to count the people. And they said, can we see it? He says, sure. Just be careful. And one rabbi looks at it, examines it. Unbelievable. And they pass it around. And towards the end, Ktav Sofer says, can I get back the coin, please? Everyone's like, I don't have it. And they start looking all over. Nobody has it. So one of the rabbis says, why don't we each, maybe by mistake, somebody put it in their pocket. Maybe one of us put it in our pocket. Rabbi Yehuda Asad, he says, why don't we wait a half hour? The wedding's coming to an end. People need to go. Let's wait a half hour. Out of respect for Rabbi Assad, they said, okay. Half hour goes by. The guy says, everybody reach into your pocket and see, maybe you put it there. Rabbi Assad says, why don't we wait another 15 minutes? After 10 minutes, the waiter comes from the back room. He says, we took off the tablecloth. We were going through it and somebody left this coin that looks very old. And they're like, oh, Baruch Hashem, you found the coin. They give it back to the Ktav Sofer. And they look at Rabbi Assad. And they're like, why did you ask us to wait? He sticks his hand into his pocket. And he takes out the same exact coin that the Ktav Sofer is holding. He says, I too have a machatzit shekel. I keep it with me everywhere I go because it helps me feel connected to the Beit HaMikdash. And I'm constantly reminded that I'm half a person and I need to connect to Hashem and all the lessons of the machatzit shekel. If 45 minutes ago, it would have stuck in our hand in our pocket and I would have emptied out my pockets, either you would have thought, this guy's a thief, or at the best, you would have thought the rabbi, he stuck his hand in his pocket subconsciously and he took the coin. And if I would have told you, no, this is mine, what would you have said? Crazy? Nobody here has ever seen a Mahadid shekel. The Ktav Sofer takes it out and you want to tell me you have the same exact coin and you never told anybody? Give me a break. Ridiculous. But it's true. He's holding one and I'm holding one. And I pray to Hashem, please, let somebody find the coin so that we don't have this busha and that they will judge me favorably. You have no idea what's going on in someone else's house. You have no idea what's going on with someone else's finances. You have no idea what's going on with someone else's marriage, with their children. You have no idea. When you see someone doing something that's uncharacteristic of them or that seems improper, you judge them favorably. Chances are something must be going on. This isn't who they are. This isn't normal. They're walking down the road. They're walking out of the restaurant. They must have needed the toilet. They're walking down the road. They must have gone to a good place. It's Shabbat. There's no way. There's a good reason. Always go out of your way. It brings down a story over here, Chacham Ovadia, of Reb Tzvi Hirsch Horowitz, the chief rabbi of Charkov. And he'd been saving money for his daughter's dowry, 500 gold coins. And he had a secret compartment in his pulpit in the shul. And when he was able to, he would put a coin in. He had 500 coins. He didn't get any money in the past 6 months. It was Erev Pesach. He's cleaning out his shtender, his pulpit. And he opens up the secret compartment. And this bag of 500 gold coins was missing. He runs home. This was his lifetime saving for the past few years. He runs home. Only his family members knew about it. Pretty much. He says, did any of you take the coins? They say, no. He said, who could have taken it? They say, your former Gabai, who left about 4 months ago, Meir Anshel, maybe he knows what happened to it. Or maybe he took it. He moved a couple of towns over and he opened up a makolet, he opened up a supermarket. Where would he even get money to open a supermarket? And I heard it's doing quite well. Chances are he took the money. So Rav Horowitz travels to Meir Anshel and he says to Meir Anshel, do you know what might have happened to the money? No. He says, Meir Anshel, tell me the truth. My whole family, they're saying, must be you took it. Who else could have taken it? No one else knew about the secret compartment. Meir Anshel says, you know what, Rabbi, you're right. I'm sorry I took it. Temptation got the better of me. I wanted to open up a business. I'm going to pay you back every penny. I only can get for you in the next day or two 200 gold coins. But I promise you, Rabbi, I'm going to pay you back the rest in increments over the next few months. Rav Horowitz goes back to Charkov and he says to his family, I'm shocked. I thought I knew him well and that he was honest, but he admitted to taking the gold coins. In the meantime, there was a pub, a tavern that always had people, poor part of town. In walks this guy and he says, tonight, drinks are on me. And the bartender says, how are you going to pay for it? He gives him a gold coin. Where'd you get this gold coin? I found it. Okay. The next week, again, same guy walks in. Drinks are on me. How are you going to pay for it? He takes out a gold coin. So the bartender, he knows this guy isn't necessarily the most honest guy. He goes to the chief of police and he says, this guy, 2 weeks in a row, comes in and he found the gold coin. 1 week maybe, 2 weeks in a row, there's no way. So he says, if he comes in again, get him nice and drunk, and when he's really, really, really drunk, then ask him how he honestly got the money. The next week again, the guy comes in and he found the gold coin for a 3rd week in a row. So they get him really drunk. And the innkeeper, the bartender says, where'd you get this money from, man? There's no way you... He says, my wife works in the synagogue. And when she was cleaning the pulpit, there was a secret compartment. In there was 500 gold coins. I waited for a few months. They didn't ask my wife. They didn't say anything. And now I think the coast is clear. You're going to make good money for me over the next few months. We're going to be paying for lots of drinks with these gold coins. The innkeeper goes back to the chief of police, tells him the story. They come to his house. They interrogate him. They push him. And he admits to what happened. He takes out the gold coins. They bring in the rabbi. They ask the rabbi the whole situation. And they give the rabbi back the 500 gold coins. The rabbi doesn't understand because Meir Anshel told him that he stole the 500 gold coins. So he travels back and he says, Meir Anshel, we found the real thief. Why would you admit to stealing coins that you didn't steal and give me money? That's he says, I saw you. And I don't know who stole the coins, but you were so distraught and so upset. And thank God business is going pretty well and I have some big plans. So I'd rather help the Rav. Rav Horowitz says, I can't believe it. Meir Anshel, for doing what you did, I give you a bracha that your business should be immensely successful, not just for you, but for your children, your grandchildren, for all future generations till Mashiach comes. You should be very, very wealthy because you were willing to take the rap for this person who stole the coins. Meir Anshel's surname is Rothschild. That is the Rothschild family. They had this zechut. I'm not going to get into the conspiracy theories. They run the world and they have trillions. The zechut that they had was because Meir Anshel took the rap. Havedan et kol ha'adam lekaf zechut. The rabbi originally judged him favorably. He admitted, we have no idea who did what. The whole family is saying, thief, ganaf, look at this guy, Meir Anshel, he makes believe he's honest. Not only is he so honest, he's willing to give and take the rap for the rabbi and do everything. Havedan et kol ha'adam lekaf zechut. When we go out of our way, we need to go out of our way and judge the whole person and understand and appreciate that everybody has character flaws, but they must be having a rough time. Havedan et kol ha'adam lekaf zechut. We need to judge favorably. We need to make sure that we have aseh lecharav. We need to make sure that we have a rabbi or a rebbitzin that can guide us, that can teach us, that knows us, because every situation is a different situation, and is able to guide you in the best way, hear the whole situation, hear all the questions, hear all the possible scenarios, and be able to guide. What's the best situation for you in your situation? And knei lecha chaver. We need to have a friend, a real friend that'll be there for us, no matter the situation, no matter the time, that's even willing to tell us when we don't look so good, when something doesn't fit the way it should fit, when we're doing something wrong with our kids, when we have at a certain party maybe things we shouldn't have a friend that's able to tell you, you're better than that. You should be doing this. I think that, again, in the right way possible, I think that you're ready to grow and you're able to, whatever it might be a real friend. Obviously this family, but knei lecha chaver. Start looking around. Who do I want to be friendly with? Who do I want should be able to influence my kids? And how am I going to make sure that those people, I see these great kids, I want them to be friends with my kids. Knei lecha chaver. Make a sleepover. Buy some pizza. Tell your kid, hey, I have 4 tickets to the game. Invite those 2 boys to come with us. That's how you become friends. Knei lecha chaver. Do whatever you got to do to make sure that the right people are going to be giving the right influence to us and to our children, and that the rabbis and the rebbitzins are able to guide us in the best way that's possible for us. And this Yoshua ben Prachya, he pushed away Yeshu. He pushed him away, and therefore I think that's part of why he says what he said. He said you need to have a rabbi that understands the people. Maybe I was too harsh on this one. Everyone, you need to know your students, and you need to know yourself. You need to have a rabbi that knows how to do it. His friends should have been able to influence him to make sure that he didn't do what it is that he did. and danet kol adam lekav zechut, should judge each person favorably. The whole picture. Maybe there's this one character flaw. This person has temptation. But overall, look at the type of person they are. They're a great person. And they do mostly good. And there's one thing, maybe as a real friend, I can help work on them. You know, somebody that this week's parasha, Tazriya Metzorah, they gossip a lot. They speak a lot of Lashon Hara. So you maybe call them up and say, I need your help. I want to work on not gossiping so much. Can you learn the halachot with me? That's a real friend. You found a way of maybe helping them. You're helping yourself as well. But you're helping them with something, but in a nice way. That's you being a real friend and you being able to find the people that you want to be friends with. So Be'ezat Hashem, this time of Sfirat HaOmer, we always say is times to work on our character traits, to try and improve. And where do we get that from? It's not what we think is good. It's what the Torah thinks is good. So we look to our Avot, we look to Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. The book of Bereshit there's no halachot, except for 3. Pru or Vu, which doesn't apply to women, and have kids. The Brit Milah, which obviously again doesn't apply to women, and not eating, where Yaakov Avinu got hit in the thigh, the Gid HaNasheh. We have the book of Avot, we have the book of Bereshit. Why? Because we're supposed to learn lessons from Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, from Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, how to act. How did Yosef do what he did with his brothers? Why? And the Torah is very open that there are mistakes that are made. And people did things wrong. Learn from their mistakes. That's what it's all about. Thank you so much to everybody yesterday who donated generously. Thank you to, I know we have Melanie over here, her son was very helpful and raised lots of money, and everybody who was being able to be mishtatef. Everything's min hashamayim. We just hit our target. Someone literally now, as the show was happening, he was messaging me, you guys really, it was all min hashamayim. And I'll be honest, the night before, someone said to me, what do you think? I said, Hashem's in charge. Al pi derech hateva, based on the amount of people that I know and the amount of money that I think we'll get, chances are it's gonna need a miracle. And a guy called me up yesterday, great guy, who in the past had never donated more than 1,500 pounds, and he said, I want to do the learning in the yeshiva, in Refuah Shlema for my mom, and he said, I'm going to do 2,000 pounds a month for the next year, 24,000 pounds. Hashem has many ways. Hashem hu gadol, right? Famous line. Don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big Hashem is. It's all from Hashem. You do ishtadu. Because the night before someone said to me, you can pull shtick and you could do it. I said, we don't pull shtick. The Torah doesn't just say, be honest. The Torah says, midvar sheker tirchak. Do your best to stay away. Not just do it 1,000,000% emet, and Hashem will sort you out. And that's Baruch Hashem what happens. So thank you to everybody for helping out and organizing. And now Be'ezat Hashem, we can put the money to good use for the Kihila. Hazaku Baruch, and wishing you all a great week.